All right, guys, this is one of those stories here that slips under the radar, but it's actually super important, so I have to share it with you. This is in More Perfect Union. They say, Ron DeSantis has now signed a bill into law that gets rid of local living wage laws in Florida cities. The law also stops local governments from passing heat protections for workers like water breaks and mandatory shade. It also gets rid of predictable scheduling laws. So let me break this down for you. There was a vote, I think it was in 2020 in Florida. It was a direct ballot initiative. Even though Trump won the state for the presidential race, with over 60% of the vote, the people of Florida said, we want to raise the minimum wage. And I think the number they settled on was $12 an hour. So you have $12 an hour minimum wage all across Florida. But in some cities, they have individually acted to say, we have a higher minimum wage in our city. So, there are local laws as well as the state laws, and some local laws go a little further. Like, hey, the cost of living in our city is even more. We're going to have a higher minimum wage, so if you work in the city, you make X amount more, whatever the number is, right? This is Ron DeSantis saying all of those cities that have a higher minimum wage, they're null and void now. We are overriding your local laws. I think the dog is dreaming next to me. You hear that? She's dreaming. It's actually kind of adorable. So he's overridden all of the local laws which have a higher minimum wage. He says, no, the lower state law is the one that applies everywhere. So giving a number of people a reduction in income like that in a callous manner. Now, also the heat protection thing. This comes right out of the Texas playbook. We talked about this when it was Texas. They rolled back their heat protections. No more mandatory water breaks, no more mandatory shade. So, and guys, remember, Florida most of the year is fucking scorching, right? It is scorching. As a direct result of this, there will be people who will be hospitalized and even die. And we know that because there was an analysis of places that didn't have this and do have this and what happened. And there are more hospitalizations. There are more deaths as a direct result of this. And the predictable scheduling thing, I mean, that speaks for itself. That's like saying your boss has even more control over you and can tell you when you work and you have really no recourse and you feel like you got to go along with it. And it's just absolutely abysmal. So as they go on to say here, this is a big business-backed bill. Much of this bill was originally written by lobbyists for the Florida Chamber of Commerce, which represents large employers and campaign contributors like Publix Supermarkets, U.S. Sugar Corporation, and Universal Studios. So I need you to understand that the consistent thing with Republicans is this. It's the tax cuts for the rich. It's the deregulation. It's the serving mega corporations, giving them complete and utter fealty and passing whatever the hell they want. That they'll always try to be a different flavor, comes along every now and then. Ron DeSantis himself positioned himself as, who, me, bro? I'm not like the other Republicans. My whole thing is like, I'm against wokeness, right? And I'm all about like freedom. He tried to pretend like I'm the freedom guy. Trump tried to pretend in 2016, I'm the populist Republican where I'm going to like look out for workers and stuff. Wrong. The connecting tissue with all the different flavors and varieties of Republican elected officials is all this. I'm serving the corporations. I'm screwing over working people. And again, you're only going to hear about this on this show. He's basically lowering the minimum wage by revoking all the local higher minimum wage laws and damning people to no labor protections at the workplace. Again, directly out of the playbook of Texas. What do they call it? I think they called it like the Death Star Law or something like that. Now, remember, this is going on at the exact same time that we can make the comparison. Florida's viewed now as, DeSantis, one of the most conservative governors. Abbott in Texas, one of the most conservative governors. Well, what's the most progressive governor in the country doing? Well, that's probably Tim Walz, right? What is Tim Walz doing? With a one-seat Democratic majority in Minnesota, universal free school meals, legal weed, carbon-free electricity by 2040, tax rebates for the working class up to $1,300. That's cash directly in the pockets of families that make under $150,000 a year. 12 weeks paid family leave, 12 weeks paid sick leave. They banned gay conversion therapy because it's fake and doesn't work. Red flag laws for guns, universal background checks for guns, automatic voter registration, free public college for families that make under $80,000, a ban on the PFAS, which are the forever chemicals, $2.2 billion increase in K-12 school funding, sectoral bargaining for nursing home workers so that they get higher wages. Another one of the most progressive governors in the country, Tony Evers, Wisconsin. He increased public school funding for the next 400 years. So look, at the federal level, I think it's fair to say the Democrats and the Republicans are too similar. Democrats are still generally better, but they are too similar to Republicans. At the state level, it ain't even close, because this is what Republican governors are doing. No more heat protections, no more mandatory water breaks or mandatory shade, no more predictable scheduling laws, and oh yeah, I'm going to lower your wages. I'm going to lower your wages. And it's funny, right? Because these are the types of people who conservatives would normally say, let's get the decision-making as close to the local level as possible, right? They're skeptical of big power centers. This is what they say. So they don't want the federal government making decisions. They'd rather have the state government making the decisions and go a layer deeper. Hey, we don't really want the state government making that many decisions. Let's have the local government make the most. Let's get the power as close as we can to the local level. This is what they say. Well, here you have an instance where the conservatives are saying, we want to take power away from the localities and the cities. We don't want the power to be as close to you as possible. We want to override it with state power. A power source that's further away from you. We want to give them more power. Why? Because at the end of the day, these Republicans are just there to serve corporations, and they're making that as clear as possible. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.